Happy Monday, everyone. Welcome to the story I'm telling myself. I am so glad that you're with us today. If you are joining us live, please jump in the comments and say hello to myself and to my guest, Rhonda Berns. Rhonda, take a minute and tell everybody who you are.
So first of all, thank you, Rita, for having me on your show today. It's such a pleasure. What you're doing and the stories that you're telling and the impact you're making on so many people. It's a pleasure to be part of this program. So first of all, thank you so much for letting me be here. What I do, my goal has always been to help other people. And I've gotten the opportunity to create a sales training and coaching program. And I did that because I realized through both my job at the Vermont Chamber and through the Convention Bureau, how many amazing entrepreneurs and solopreneurs and even salespeople that were out in business that never had any formal sales training. However, they were responsible for creating all this top line revenue and creating new business, but they had no training and they were struggling. Just like my beginnings when I first started, I was thrown into sales with no training and I found it incredibly frustrating. So once I got training, I understood that, wow, there's a process to sales. Sales is a skill. We're not born with it. So how do we start teaching other people the skills about how to actually go about doing sales in a way that feels good, that doesn't feel like you're manipulating other people? So about 6 years ago, I created this program. I created a sales training and coaching program that truly empowers those solopreneurs, those entrepreneurs, those salespeople who have been struggling with not knowing what to do next. And so I've provided them with a customer-centric, relationship-based sales process that they can use to go out and start to become more confident and effective and become successful salespeople. And I say salespeople, but I really believe that we need to become really trusted consultants and advisors to our clients because people don't want to be sold to anymore. So learning a process
that is very true. People are harsh about it. People are hypercritical about it. And well, we might talk more about the sales stuff at the end, but I want to just pause to say good morning, Ruth and Susan and Sonia. Thank you for jumping in the chat and saying hello. This is an interactive show. This is what we want. We want to see your questions. We want to see your comments. We're happy to engage with you. So please don't be shy if you're joining us live. And if we missed you live, comment in the replay and we will try to respond back to you. And this gets to the sales thing that Rhonda's talking about, because I don't know about other people. There are people who say, oh my God, I could not, like public speaking. Oh my God, that's my worst fear. Like that's how I feel about sales. And so we're titled this episode. We had some fun kind of titling this episode, but am I prey? And so Rhonda, you're going to share the story that, about that we tell ourselves about that's fear driven. And as much setup as I'm going to give, and I'm going to let you take it over. But what is it that puts us in this fight or flight mode of feeling like prey?
Yeah, I truly believe that we have these voices in our heads all the time. And when we go out to do something, and I do talk about if you have to go out and do prospecting or go out and do a networking event, or you go into a trade show, or you go into a party that you don't know a lot of people that are there, the first thing that starts to come up in us is fear. We are petrified. Like, what am I going to say? What am I going to do? How are people going to perceive me? It's all those little voices in our heads that start to go. And I believe that no one is able to really stop them. I don't believe we can stop those voices in our heads. But what we can do is recognize them. And so when they show up, how do we recognize the voice, hear what it's trying to tell us? It's because what it's trying to do is prevent us from doing something that we're scared of. I mean, that's all of the years that we've been on this planet has been this protection. Like, how do we protect ourselves from not going out into the jungle and not having this, having a tiger eat us for lunch? So we have this fear. So naturally, our brains are telling us all of these things. Don't do it. You're going to be scared. You're not going to know what to do. However, if you can hear them, if you can recognize that and say, you know what? I'm going to go meet some new people. I'm okay with that. Let me think about some ways that I can go out and start a conversation with somebody. And what I like to work on is, how do I change? How do I get back to neutral from scared back to neutral, and then come up with some techniques to realize that I'm going out. I'm not going out to talk about me. I want to go out and meet new people. I want to go network. But if you can use what I like saying, start with curiosity. What if you took that fear and turned it into curiosity? Who's going to be there? Who could I maybe meet today? Who could share some amazing information with me that I never knew before? What can I learn when I show up? And if we can change the narrative in our head, recognize it, stop it, switch gears, and start thinking about what positive things that can happen instead of what's negative. And that starts to light us up. That brings us joy. And if you can think about starting with curiosity and then just start a conversation with somebody, because when we come from a place of curiosity and we start a conversation, that's where the connection happens. So stop thinking about yourself and start thinking of, who can I connect with today? I'm curious.
So I'm gonna pause you right there. So we got tip number 1 is when, in these social settings, and you nailed it, right? This is common. If you have this fear, I feel this way every time I'm walking into a networking event by myself, and I'm like, I'm a wonderful wing person. I love having a buddy and being a wing person. When you walk in all by yourself and it's an event you've never been to before and you don't know who you're going to encounter, I have to do this. I have to sort of do this, hype myself up and go to that place of, okay, who am I going to meet? I'm scouting immediately. Like, who's somebody that I can just go find something out about, getting out of my own head about what I need to say or whatever. But let's back up. Be sure you bring me back here but let's talk about the psychology underlying all of this, because we walk into these situations and our fear response, our fight, flight, freeze response gets triggered, but there's a reason. I mean, what do you remember from your early formative years, Rhonda, about things that happened to you that you think get translated into these moments of fear that you experience that you're talking yourself out of?
Well, I think sometimes our voices come from things that we've picked up from other people too. It's not necessarily our own. I think if you watch, for me, when we watch little kids, right, we don't have any fear. We're willing to take on everything. It's not until we start getting other people's perception. For me, I've always been a kind of a risk taker, but at the same time, I've always had, my mother was never a risk taker. My mother was one of those people that she could have been amazing. She could have done a lot of really great things. She had some incredible talents, but her fear always prevented her from doing what she truly was meant to do, in my opinion. And that fear, every time I went to do something new, she always kept saying, are you sure you want to do that? I don't know if that's the right thing for you to do. Maybe you should take a couple steps. Maybe you should think about it. I mean, leaving jobs, I would, as soon as I started getting frustrated or I was getting bored and I wasn't in a place where I'm not making an impact anymore, I needed to leave. And making those job changes or career changes for me was exciting until she started planting all of this fear in me. And then I started thinking back going, oh, maybe should I be doing this? Should I be making this career change? Like, what am I not thinking about? Because I thought I had done the research. I thought I was ready. And that's when that fear and like, should I throw the brakes on? Should I not do this? And, I had to do it when I actually left Boston, when I was living and had a great career and decided to come up and be an innkeeper in Vermont. I can't even begin to tell you how many people told me I was making a mistake. But in my heart, I knew this was going to light me up. I knew that this was something that I wanted. This is something I had been dreaming about for as long as I could remember. I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to have my own business. But those people that kept putting these voices in my head or telling me, I don't know, you sure you're making the right decision? You're leaving a great career. Look at where you are. Look at what you're doing. Do you really want to do this? And I had to fight all those demons and then stop every single time and go, what's in my head? What's in my heart? What do I really want?
Right.
And how do
I
I
just
shut them
I
down?
just saw a quote not too long ago. It was something like, there are 1,000 reasons not to. It's your job to figure out the one reason why, right? And the one reason why for you to leave this corporate career, this well-paying job, this where you were doing really well, and follow your dream of moving to Vermont and owning this hotel was that it was really in your heart. I think that for me, at the core, there's one of two things behind every fear in those situations. It's rejection, because
Yeah.
we've all faced rejection at some point in our lives, and it's shame. I'm going to shame myself in some way. Like, I remember early on, when 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 I went to like first networking events, and I went to this one, and they had a particular cadence for how you were to give your commercial when it was your time to speak, and I didn't know their lingo, and I didn't know their process, and you were sort of frowned upon because you didn't do it right. And it really put me off. It really made me like not want to go networking. And then the next one that I went to, all these people showed up at their pitch, and I remember there was this one dude. He had this girl, a young woman who was like just like his sidekick. She was just there holding the business cards or whatever. And he's like, he comes up in your face and he shakes your hand and he's like spewing. Here's what I do, la, 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 at you. I don't remember a thing he said. She hands you a card and he moves on to the next person. Like, he doesn't ask a question about you or anything. And I thought, this isn't my scene. Like, I don't understand this at all, nor am I prepared to come spew some 30-second commercial at every person that I meet. And if this is the expectation, I'm not prepared. I'm shaming myself. I'm shaming my business in this moment. So I had a very different, where you had a lot of external challenges coming at you from, a lot of my stuff comes from within myself, the thinking that I have, but it doesn't matter whether it's internal or external. It's all seeds of doubt.
Yeah. And and I'm not going to sugarcoat this and say I don't feel the same way, because I've shown up to networking events where the person who invited me did not prepare me. And the same thing happened. They're like, okay, Rhonda, stand up and introduce yourself for 60 seconds. And I'm like, what? Like, I thought I was just coming to meet a bunch of people. So one of the things that I've learned over the years is to do that, to overcome your fear, is to take some extra time when you're going out to doing networking. And I agree with you. I got to tell you, I was terrified. I was shaking through the whole presentation, and I do this for a living. And so when you're not prepared, you're not confident. And that's the challenge. So anytime you're going into an event or going somewhere, or even, like I said, even a social event with people that you don't know, maybe a significant other's family, thinking about who are the people you're going to go, do a little bit of research, think about what is that going to look like when you get there. And if you can take the time to visualize, this is what I use anyway. I don't know if any of you have done the same thing, but visualize a positive outcome. So picture yourself walking into that same scenario, but with questions that you're going to ask, and curiosity, and who's going to be there, and how could you maybe make a connection with that person, and thinking about the people. The guy who was throwing his business cards around and having a 30-second pitch, he made it all about him. I believe we can take the pressure off of ourselves and make it about them. I did a lot of Dale Carnegie training. And if you think about who Dale Carnegie is, he talks about the most popular people in the room are not the people that do all the talking. It's the people that ask questions and are really good listeners. And that's how we connect with other people. Curiosity, asking questions, listening with intent, and trying to understand where the other person is coming from. And then they feel seen and heard, and they feel good. So if that person went up to you, Rita, and said, hey, Rita, this is who I am, but hey, I'm here to meet other people. Tell me a little bit about you. What brought you here today? is there someone in here you want to meet, or can I help you with anything? Or is this your first time? You would have felt seen, and that fear would have gone away, and that shame wouldn't have been there, because now you're being included to the group. So,
right. But yeah, I mean, there's a truth. There's a reason we have the saying, I felt like I was thrown to a pack of wolves. And I've often had that feeling, in networking and stuff. I want to highlight what Sonia's talking about here, because this is the other side of this, which is sometimes, and it brings me to the Thomas Edison. I found 1,000 ways it didn't work. Like sometimes you just have to get enough no's or have enough, small failures that you are able to continue beyond, to realize that it is not going to be the ender thing that you think it's going to be. So I do think the story we can tell ourselves is, if I fail, I will never get another shot. And what Sonia's saying is, look, I realized I was making a lot of mistakes, but then when I said, I can embrace that, I can overcome that. Each one is a learning opportunity. And we tell ourselves that, it's easy to dispense that advice to other people. It's easy to read that advice and say, yeah, I'm going to do that. But the truth is, in the heat of the moment, when you're feeling that shame and that guilt of letting yourself down and letting other people down, it is just so easy to believe that you are not going to be able to recover from this. So I want you to remember Sonia and what she's saying, that, you can recover. You can recover from this. And part of that is what you were saying. Tip number 2, visualize a positive outcome, right? That just because this one doesn't work doesn't mean the next one won't work. Oprah calls it failing up. How do you learn from this attempt and make the next attempt smarter and better because of it? But many of us, we shy away. We feel like we've been thrown to the wolves. We feel like we're prey. And so we just do what your mom did. I'm just not going to put myself in that situation. I'm not going to put myself in that risk again. So let's go back to you deciding to step out of your very successful career, very, very successful career, and step into this dream that you had of living in Vermont, of owning this hotel. What is it that, you said you were listening to your heart, but what were some of the shifts in the story that you had to tell yourself to give yourself permission to follow your heart? Because it sounds like you had a lot of people around you that were like, you're crazy. No.
And I think it's every job. So even when I just recently, 6 years ago, before I started this business, it's the same. It's the exact same process that I have taken for both of them. Yes, I hear what they're saying. I hear what they're doing. However, I was getting frustrated in my previous positions. I knew I couldn't stay there. And so I think we have to sometimes think about, what are they saying, but never mind what they're saying. What are we feeling? And for me, when I get into this area, that I was frustrated, and I knew what lights me up is to be able to make my own decisions. It's about creating a world where I'm empowered to make my decisions on where I want to go and the people I want to help and the people I want to serve. And I found that when I was working with her in the corporate world, and even when I was working up here for some of the nonprofits, the directions they kept asking me to go was not bringing me joy. It was not lighting me up. What I knew is that in my heart of hearts, both when I was an innkeeper and on the inn, I knew that was something that I love doing. I love taking someone's vacation, that I could make or break it, and I could actually turn them into this most incredible vacation by helping them create an experience. And that's what I did. And it's the same thing when I was working at the chamber with all these small businesses. I was realizing they were all getting stuck. And when I went out to work with them one-to-one, what was actually was my driving force. It was what I knew. I was getting pure joy by sitting with them and walking through and sharing this knowledge that I have had I'm so grateful to have gotten when I was 24 and learn how to use it through a lot of trial and error. Trust me. we talk about getting here, and I quote Brene Brown, like you quote Oprah Winfrey. We have to learn how to fail forward, and we have to be willing to understand that It's going to take a lot of times to fall down to get where we want. But what lights you up? What brings you joy? And when we're getting frustrated with something, it's too easy to say, I'm not going to do it because everyone agrees with me. It's going to be too hard, or, it's not going to be comfortable, or it's going to be painful. It's going to be a lot of work. I mean, people would tell me, like, you're nuts. You're going to go start your own business. What are you, crazy? Like, you have a full-time job. You're making really good money. You're making an impact. I'm like, but it's not the impact that I want to make. It's not bringing me joy anymore. It's time for me to do what my heart tells me to do, and take everything that's in here and put it down and on paper, and start showing other people that there is a way I can help make their lives better, so that they can create their legacy, that they can overcome their fear by using a system that's going to help them. And that's what lights me up. And that's what brings me joy. And that's why I created my business. And that's why I started doing innkeeping, because I loved it. It was amazing. I mean, the accolades and the letters, and then they brought their families, and then they would bring their friends up for weekends to come up and ski and hang out in the Mad River Valley of Vermont. And so for me, that's where my heart is. And if I'm not bringing joy, I get incredibly frustrated, and I have to get back to neutral. And then I have to find that joy, and I have to reprogram my head to say, what is it? What's going to bring me joy? What lights me up? And how do I go in that direction? And then the other point I use a lot is I talk about CANI, constant and never-ending improvement. And as someone who can be analysis paralysis and trying to make everything perfect, I have to realize I can only be better than I was yesterday. And it's one little thing better each time, and not getting so consumed about perfectionism, and just going out there and just constantly making better. I mean, my program's been out for 6 years, and every time I finish a class, I make changes to it. Oh, this is what people are talking about today. This is what's trending. How do I make it better? How do I communicate it better? So yeah, CANI, constant and never ending improvement, is, it's one of my mantras, where every time I'm like, am I doing enough? I'm like, you made a little bit of improvement. Give yourself a pat on the back, because you can either go backwards or you can go forward. And fear stops us.
Yeah. I mean, I think anytime that you are caught in a cycle of fear, you are caught in this place of, am I the prey, that we titled the episode for. And that can be very true in your career, because oftentimes we make choices about what we do in our careers from a place of safety.
Yeah.
And when you're doing that, you are giving up freedom. You are exchanging security for freedom, plain and simple. And you are putting yourself sort of in that position of being the prey, because you're allowing fear to dictate your choice set. And this idea that, can you move beyond? Can you envision something that lights you up? And what I love about your story, Rhonda, is it wasn't just this idyllic dreaminess of living in the mountains of Vermont and having a hotel or a bed and breakfast, but it was this experience. You were seeing yourself creating this experience for your guests. And I think that's a place that a lot of people, they dream about the idyllic, but they can't get to that level of specificity that you were at. And so giving themselves permission to take the risk, they're just not there enough. Why do you think you were able to just move beyond the idyllic to what enabled you to really get into that mindset of really thinking about it like a business instead of just a dream of something that would be so much more fun and fulfilling than what you were doing sitting in an office grinding every day?
Yeah. I think for me, I mean, I grew up in the hotel industry, right? So every couple of years, whether you got promoted or moved to another hotel or another city. So I was constantly moving. And of course, that freaked out a lot of people going, first of all, I filled up all their address books, which drove my girlfriends nuts. So for one Christmas, when we were still using address books, I had to send them all address books because I took up all their B's in their section of B's. But my philosophy has always been, what's the worst thing that can happen? And if the worst thing was happening is I go back and do what I was doing before. And that was when people were like, are you nuts? You're going to leave your job? I'm like, yeah, well, if it doesn't work, I'll sell the inn and I'll go back and get a hotel job. Like there's a million of them out there. Like, so I think you have to kind of register what's the risk and why, what's not going to happen if you don't take the risk. And so I guess I've always been a little bit of that risk taker and understanding that if the worst thing that can happen is I go back and doing what I was doing before, is there really that much risk to that? Yeah, it might be a little bit painful. You'll lose a little bit of money, but so what? If you keep doing it, you just get better at doing it the next time. And you're not going to succeed every time, but you can always make changes. And I think that's the other part that I had to learn sometimes the hard way, like what's worth fighting for and what's worth letting go. And letting some of that stuff go and knowing that you're never going to be perfect and being willing. Well, COVID taught us some incredible, lessons on there. What didn't, COVID was terrible, but boy, did it teach us to adapt and become flexible. And I mean, I had to change my entire business model. Like everything that I was doing for a year before COVID, everything went away. I mean, I could either change what I was doing or basically close up shop and go find something else to do. And I decided to pivot for the same reason. I looked at it as not being huge risk, but that's an option. That's a way out. That's an avenue to take. So instead of thinking what stops us, think about what doors could open. So I think it's a mindset shift. We can think about what's negative and we can think about what we can't do. But what if you started thinking on a regular basis, what can I do? What's possible? And it's changing your mindset from the negative to the positive. And that's where the doors start to open. Our brains are amazing, in my opinion. I think if you can ask it the right questions, it's going to give you the right answers. And this is from Tony Robbins. It's not mine, but I did some of his programs a number of years back. And he said, it's the power of focus. You can either focus on the negative and it's going to show you everything that's bad. Like you can say, why was I so stupid to have made that decision? Your brain's going to tell you all the reasons why you made all those mistakes. So what if you asked it, what are all the amazing things that I'm doing? And what else could I be doing that's going to get me to my dream? Your brain's going to do the exact same thing, but it's going to do it in a positive direction. And so I loved that saying because that always moved me from, yes, trust me, I go negative first because that's who I think it's just human nature. I start thinking of all the reasons why I shouldn't. But then I'm like, hey, wait, stop, recognize it, refocus. What are my sage powers? My power is that I can start looking at the positive and not focus on the negative. And that positive is going to bring me in that direction. So, what's the worst that can happen? Realize it, accept it, but then make a plan to move forward in the direction that you want to go in. And it's the same thing with anything that we do, right? If you're not willing to try, you're never going to know. And I tell this to people all the time. If you don't make that phone call, if you don't go to that event, it's 100% no. But if you show up, you got a 50-50 chance of meeting some new people. You have a 50-50 chance of getting that sale if you actually go make that call. So not doing it gives you 0. Doing it, hey, right, you're much better on the other side.
Well, and the other thing that I think is really sticking out to me about what you're saying, Rhonda, is that you're not preaching be Pollyannish. You're not preaching pretend like there's no downside. It's acknowledge the downside, but don't stop at just the downside. Make sure that you balance that out by looking for the windows and doors, the possibilities, the what's next. I want to thank Sonia for jumping in. I think you were talking, I don't know if you got to see it, but she was sharing that that she's finding this very inspirational. Mm-hmm. And this idea that sales doesn't have to be something cringe and it's about showing up. And thank you, Susan, for acknowledging again something that you were saying about like failure is a word that we give more power than we should, because it simply means we didn't accomplish what we set out to accomplish. Right. We give it the power to mean that it's the big monumental thing that defines us. And it's not, like Susan says, it's those are moments that teach us, that help us find a new path to success in the future. And when we give that much power to the word failure, we become prey to that word. If we're always acting from a place of fear that we're not going to be perfect, fear that we might fail, and we're allowing that to limit us, then fear is the wolf and we are the prey.
Yeah. And, you know, and failure actually works pretty good, because if we were always successful, we wouldn't know what steps we took to correct those things that aren't going well. And I think you just have to, again, change what failure means. Failure just means it didn't work this time. And then do a post-op. What went well? Again, you have to pull those positives in. For me, that's what I have to do. What went really well? What parts didn't go well? And instead of calling, and maybe we call them failure, you can call them whatever word that works for you. But take that and go, how do I show up differently next time? Instead of saying, I'm not going to do it again because I failed this time, what went well and what do I need to change next time I show up? And looking at it in a different way, because failure doesn't mean to stop. Failure just means you need to refocus, come up with another solution or another opportunity to go out and try it a different way. So yeah, we can be prey to fear, and it can basically petrify us right into the same spot, but we're never gonna find that joy that we deserve to have in our lives if we're always basically stuck in fear and are not willing to try and not willing to get out of that fear. And I would highly recommend doing your research. What promotes me or moves me through, I didn't just go out and pick an inn in Vermont and decide to buy it, or just decide to pick, this is what I want to do for my career. I tend to be a perfectionist. I did a ton of research. And I think if you can spend the time, but I did the research on my own. I got rid of those other voices. I'm like, what do I want? What lights me up? What do I want to do? And try to keep those other voices over, and then make that decision. And the word decision means to take action. So start taking action. Did I do it all right? No. Can I tell you, I'd almost like to write a couple books, because, everything everyone wanted to know about being an innkeeper, but no one tells you until you sign the P&L and you're in there. So like, I want to write the book of all the mistakes I made, because I made a ton of them. But I will tell you, when I finally sold the inn, that I can go back in and consult innkeepers to help them navigate some of those areas and try to help them prevent them from making some of the same mistakes. And how do we do that? We share our information. We share the things that we did that might be able to assist them, to help them overcome some obstacles when they hit them. So like, preempt them. So what can you do to preempt that fear before you go to a networking? Find out who's going to be there. Think about what questions can you do? Like, how can you prepare before you go in there? Because if you're confident, you're going to feel it, and people are going to see it when you show up.
There is nothing mightier than the wisdom of lived experience.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it is, there's just nothing better out there than the wisdom of lived experience. And it's so powerful because it is filled with these moments of failure, because it is filled with these moments of trying something, having it not work, and having to quickly figure out what the other thing is. It's filled with the effort required to survive and the hard lessons won in that journey. And that's what you have to offer, because you said yes, you found, you chased the dream until you changed the dream. But again, I mean, the whole reason we named, and Rhonda and I had a really fun conversation to talk about this of Am I the Prey, is I really want, as we're wrapping up this episode, for you to remember that you are the prey to fear if you give it that power over you. And I hope that you will take the wisdom of Rhonda's lived experience to recognize that there are all kinds of voices outside and in that will give you the 1,000 reasons to say no to yourself, but you still retain the power to be the one to say yes. And whether you're an innkeeper or not, look, most of us have some kind of sales role in our lives, and there is nobody that I trust more to really give good sage guidance and advice than Rhonda. So, Rhonda, tell people a little bit more about your business and how they can find you.
So I've created what I realized talking to solopreneurs and entrepreneurs and salespeople is that there's a lot of fear around sales. And what I wanted to do is create a program that is a framework, that's a step-by-step process that people could take the course, whether we do it live together on Zoom, or you take a self-paced online program, or you want to do one-to-one coaching. I just felt that there's 3 different options for people depending on where you are in your stage of your life and your career and what you're doing. So I've created these programs that teach not about manipulation, but how do we make those connections, and how do we do that through curiosity and connection with the people that we want to actually serve. We created a business, we created a service, we created a product that serves other people. What if you could spend more time finding those people that need you and then going out and serving them what they need that's going to help them achieve their goals, help them get to the next step and where they need to be. Again, I talk about joy a lot because that's what brings me joy. And that's what I've created. So whether you go onto my website, I've got a number of actually 2 mini courses and a PDF that you can actually download for free. And it talks about, one of them is about networking, which fits right into what we're talking about. It's about a 20-minute networking mini course that you can download for free. And then how to sell with confidence. I put in 5 steps that you can follow. It's a very mini course of my 5-week program or my online program. However, it will give you some tools to start thinking about, what do I need to do? And what is the steps that if I just kind of follow this, even starting tomorrow, if you downloaded it today and you started using them, it will give you a little bit of a framework that you can take away and start having better conversations and start being more curious and start building those connections with the people that need you the most, and doing it from a place of being genuine and sincere and not from a place of trying to manipulate. I almost want to take the word sales out of what I do, because the connotation of what people think about is sales. But social media and marketing are great for your business. But number one, what happens when the phones don't ring? So you have to go out and start meeting people where they are. And the other thing is when people call you in, do you have a system in place that you can have a conversation to help understand where that client is, and whether I refer them back to Rita because they need her help first, or to some of my marketing friends, or do you need a program that I can help you with that will help you overcome that, whatever's getting you stuck in those sales conversations that's preventing you from creating that top line revenue. So that's what I'm offering. And again, there's a number of things that you can download, but my LinkedIn and my website, which is rhondaberns.com, has so much information. And then you can obviously sign up anytime for a complimentary discovery call where we just talk. What are you looking for? What do you need? And I've got some great people that I network with, my collaborative partners. So whether you need sales or something else, I have a lot of people in my network that I can assist you in helping you get to the next step. And that's my goal.
And I just want to add here, if you don't own your business and you never plan to walk the journey that Rhonda and I have to do that, it's okay. That networking stuff that she's talking about, it's important. Those skills are going to help you. If you find yourself wanting to change companies and you're out interviewing, same skills, the confidence, the positioning that you use in networking, same thing that you need when you're talking to recruiters, when you're trying to get the invitation to go have the interview with the top executive. Promotions. If you're looking to advance your career, you've got to understand how to start networking with executives around you so that you are positioning yourself as a leader in your space, so that you are seen. Because it's not enough just for your boss. You need other people around you who are seeing you be that person who is ready for promotion. So those skills, they're applicable to to all of us, whether or not you own your own business. There's stuff that Rhonda's offering around networking that you're going to find valuable tools that you can use. Look, we are out of time. Thank you for joining us today on the story I'm telling myself. Tomorrow, come back at noon. Carmen Alvarez is going to be with me, and we're going to talk about finding joy again after grief. How do you navigate grief and find your way back on the other side? It's going to be a very powerful. I'm going to try very hard not to cry, but I probably will cry, and you will forgive me. We're going to talk about that tomorrow at noon. And then on Friday, we have another episode coming up. It's a 3-week episode. So thank you for joining us today. Thank you for engaging with us in the comments. We love having all of you with us. Ruth, Susan, Sonia, thank you for being with us, and I'll see you back next time. Thanks so much, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thank you for joining us on the story I'm telling myself. If you loved this episode, would you do us a big favor to help us reach a bigger audience? Simply subscribe to the Story I'm Telling Myself podcast and rate this episode and share it with a friend. Thank you for listening.